Pew, 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 pew. I'm going down. Pew, 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 pew.
Hey,
Yeah?
you ready to go swimming?
Yes, I am. Oh boy, I had such a good time. Oof. Oh, ouch. Oh, what happened to me? What's going on? Oh my goodness! Hi, my name is Tanner, and welcome back to Tanner's Tales. What you just saw was a dramatization of a freak accident that happened to me in the second grade. Yes, this is the story of how I accidentally sat on a pencil. So back in elementary school, my dad used to take me to his best friend's house because my dad's best friend had kids that were about the same age as me. So it just worked out as a natural play date. We did all sorts of different things on different weekends, but on this particular weekend, we decided that we were going to go swimming in a creek and then go back to his house afterwards and have a cookout. And so, me and my dad, we get packed up that day. I'm all dressed up to go swimming. We hop in his car, him in the front seat, me in the back seat, because I was just a little too young to be sitting up in the front just then. And we drive off. And as I'm in the back seat, I have a bunch of things to occupy me. And they just happen to be a bunch of pencils, pens, and notebooks that I have acquired from the doctor's office over numerous visits, because unlike normal people at a doctor's office who want candy or stickers or stuff like that, and I mean, I like stickers. I had a whole collection of stickers. I wanted to have all the pens and notepads that they didn't want anymore. So, being the artist I was in second grade, I just thought it would be so cool to draw on them and have them on hand. So I just kept them in the back seat of the car. And as we're driving to my dad's friend's house, I'm just playing with one of these pencils and I'm zipping it around like it's a TIE fighter and an X-Wing, just going back and forth, and I just am keeping myself occupied the whole ride there with this pencil. I'm just so focused on playing with this pencil. And when we get to my dad's friend's house, I decide to put it sticking point up in between the two seat cushions. I don't know why I decided to do that, and honestly, I set myself up for what's about to happen next. We all shuttle into my dad's friend's car, and we all drive down to an unmarked path that leads to the creek. We're splishing and splashing in this creek, swimming all around, having a good old time, and all of my worries and all my cares just melted away. My memory faded too, because I didn't even remember I stuck a pencil face up, point up, in the seat of my dad's car. And I wasn't even thinking about it. We swam for about maybe 2 to 3 hours, and then we all decided it was time to go back to my dad's friend's house and go enjoy a cookout. So we get back, and we're all getting ready to change, and that's when problem number one comes up. There's no room in the house for me to change. My dad's best friend had about 3 kids, and all 3 of them were present that day, and we all went down to the creek together, and they all went to different rooms of the house to change. But that left me with no room in the house to change, and I didn't want to wait because I wanted to join in with the fun as soon as everybody was changed and ready. So I decided to get changed in my dad's car. Great idea. I go get my stuff, and my dad, goes outside with me. He blocks the door so nobody can see. I'm inside the car. Totally forgot about the pencil. Still not even on my mind. Still sticking point up. I'm in the car. I'm taking off my clothes. I'm in the nude. And at this point, I make a fatal mistake. I go to turn around, but I put my butt down, and I go smack. So it's like NASA shot a rocket to the moon to land on the moon, but the moon came to the rocket and impact. Before I knew it, I had been impaled. But, much to my surprise, I didn't know what happened. All I was like was, whoa! It kind of tickled. I didn't feel any pain at first. I felt like a brief tickle on my right side honeycomb. And I just like jumped up. And I'm like, ooh. My dad was at that point watching, and he takes one look in the car and he's like, oh my. And I'm like, what? What's going on? I had no idea what's going on. My dad's not telling me. He goes around the car, goes to the back, into the trunk, opens the trunk of this car, pulls out a first aid kit, and before I even know it, he's rubbing my butt with an alcohol wipe. It stings just a little bit, and then he uses a gauze pad and sticks it on and uses medical tape. And he patches me up. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, you sat on the pencil. And I look back, the pencil's still there. There's no blood on it, but it's still there, point up, and I'm like, oh. I realized my stupid mistake in that moment. So at that moment, my dad's calling my mom, and my dad's chill about it. He's like, oh, it's not that bad. We can probably get you to the hospital later in the day. You know, we're going to enjoy a cookout first. But he calls my mom, and my mom's like, you need to get him to the hospital right now. So we go home, we pick up my mother, and we go to the hospital. We go to the ER. And in Pennsylvania, the ER room wait times can be a little bit ridiculous. We got there probably evening. Probably didn't get back for like an hour. And when they get me back, they ask me, what happened? And I'm just like, you know, an 7 or 8 year old kid, and I'm just sitting there. My butt hurts. I couldn't sit naturally the whole way home or the whole way to the hospital. I had to sit on my one knee in the back seat of the car to relieve the pain. And I'm just like, sat on a pencil, and they're like, you what? I'm like, I sat on a pencil. So they're like, okay, we're gonna need you to lay face down on the hospital bench, and we're gonna need you to pull your pants down. And I do that, and they look at it and like, oh, okay, well, we'll have somebody come in just a few minutes. So a few minutes are going by, I'm laying there with my booty out in the air, just like sitting there. My parents are in the room, they're both sitting there. And eventually a lady comes in the room, and she's a nurse, and she's looking at me. She takes one look at me and is like, oh my, what happened there? So I had to recount the events of the day one more time to this lady, and I want to say, she probably wanted to laugh at me. I would have laughed at me. I'm laughing at myself now, you know, thinking back on what kind of incident happened. And she's like, oh, don't worry, honey, you're going to be okay. And she pulls out a Q-tip. And this is where the real fun begins. They douse that thing in alcohol, rubbing alcohol. And they have to clean the wound. And it's not like what my dad did, where he just brushed the surface. No, they had to go in depth and they were on a cave expedition, and they were digging for gold. Only they were trying to clean an injury. So after that excruciating time went by, and I don't know how long it was because it felt like an eternity in hell, the lady comes, she's like, okay, I'm going to go get the doctor now, and he'll be able to tell you what course of action we can do. Another 10-15 minutes goes by, and a man comes in, takes one look at me, and is like, well, we got two options. This type of injury either requires one stitch, or we can try this new method that we've been working on for like the last several months or however long it was, and we can use this experimental glue to glue it back together. I was a bit of a sissy. I don't like needles. I don't like sharp things. So I was like, I'll take the glue. So the doctor's like, all right. Goes back out, comes back in with this like thing that looks like super glue. I bet you it was super glue. The thing was strong. And he basically just rubs it on, cinches it back together. It's like, okay, just don't get it wet for a few days, and just be careful not to be too rough back there, okay? And I was like, oh. So, I had my butt glued back together. My right butt cheek. And now I can say proudly that my moon has a crater on it. So, I mean, that's cool, right? As unlucky as that turn of events was, you know, you would think that's the only thing that happened to me like that. But no, that's just one story. That was the story of how I sat on a pencil. But there is one more freak accident to happen to me with a pencil, and you're about to hear it. The second most embarrassing pencil-related injury that I had sustained happened when I was in 8th grade English class. I was hard at work deciphering one of the many passages in a big English book, and I was writing vigorously with my faithful No.2 pencil. Just writing really fast, as I was quite the fast processor back then. And I looked down. I just happened to have made a mistake. It wasn't just a mistake that I could just let it go. No, it was a mistake that needed erasing. So I flipped the pencil around, point up, and stuck that rubber part right against the paper and just started vigorously erasing. And all of a sudden, and even to this day I don't know exactly what happened, but it was like I just blacked out and my head went bam, right on the pencil, right in line with my right eye. And when I came up, the pencil was lodged, and this is no joke, in between my eye and my eyelid. It didn't puncture my eye at all. Miraculously, it somehow slipped in between, and it touched the part of my skull, and it felt weird. But I just go, I pull it out, and all of a sudden tears just roll down my face. Like my whole right side of my face is just covered in tears, and I look up from my desk, and I just raise my hand awkwardly, because what else do you do when you just accidentally stabbed your eye with a pencil? I raised my hand and I said, I stabbed my eye with a pencil. Can I go to the nurse? And the teacher's like, oh, yeah, you should go to the nurse. So I get up and I run out of the classroom. I run down the hallway, run down the stairs to the nurse's office, and the nurses examine me, and they're like, they take me through a whole eye test, like, you know, those things that you put your eyes in, you read off the letters. They did that whole test on me, and I passed, and they're like, well, as odd as that incident was, you're gonna be okay. And I'm like, oh, cool. And to this day, I still see pretty fine out of that eye. It's like I still have perfect vision in that eye. Somehow, miraculously. But only instead of just perfect vision, 20/20, I have 20 No.2 pencil vision now. And that is the second most embarrassing incident I had with a pencil, and the story about how I stabbed my eye with a pencil. So I think the moral of both of these two stories is pencils are dangerous, and you have to be very, very careful with them. Maybe it was a freak accident, but maybe it was fate. I may not know for sure, but I do know one thing. As long as I am here, the world shall have a new hero. I am Pencil Man. Tanner here again. Thank you for watching that epic episode of Tanner's Tales. I'll get right to the point. If you like our content, feel free to give us a good old like and feel free to subscribe for our future videos to come. While you're down there, drop in the comment section below your most embarrassing injury story. And until the next story, stay sharp.